Yeah. I think it's hard to say what counts as tradition if you haven't experienced tradition, because like if you haven't like been to the motherland, or you haven't like gone and lived in a village or lived
Mm.
somewhere that isn't westernized, because then you're just putting your like, as you were saying, your product of your environments, and you're putting those views on it.
Mm.
So you haven't lived it. It's really hard to comment on it. I
So
think
you're saying it's
everything,
hard to comment on it if you haven't lived that life?
Like
yeah,
the tradition.
yeah,
Really?
yeah, definitely.
Mm.
I could say what I think it is from the outside.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I've like stayed in the village for months and washed my body and pumped the water from the well and done all of that.
Mm.
But is that really living tradition, or is that me just like, I don't think that's truly living in the
Like
tradition.
adapting to the circumstances, like
No,
adapting
that'll
to the
be the
Yeah,
environment.
that.
Mm.
Mm,
yeah.
okay.
So I don't know. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I kind of agree and disagree at the same time because it's like I think like we've just been saying we have the Caribbeans and we have the Africans.
Yeah.
There are some similarities that we
The
have, but then do
customs.
you know what I mean?
Mm.
But there are certain things that are different. So for example, like you just said, like when you dated a Nigerian guy, there were certain expectations
Mm.
that is expected when a Nigerian man brings a woman home that a woman has to abide by, if that makes sense. So like for me, I can't, as a Nigerian man, there's no way I'm gonna bring a woman home and my mother would be like, oh, she can't do this or she can't do that. Whether you can say that's it's not a tradition. It could be a traditional thing, but whether it's a cultural thing, that's a separate thing. But I would say it's a tradition thing because each community and each black community has its own tradition.
Yeah.
As a Jamaican, you
Yeah,
have a
but
tradition. As a Nigerian, we have a tradition. And I wouldn't say that, and that's where the difference is. It's not culture, it's a tradition.
Okay. So you mean like customs? It's like customs. It's things that you do within your culture. That's a cultural thing, though. That's
that's what I'm
customary.
saying. Because if you don't know where, if you don't know the root of the tradition and the real reason why you're doing
Then
it,
it's a
then it's not a
custom.
tradition.
Yeah, it's
It's
a
just it's a
custom.
cultural thing that's gone on
Mm.
through time.
Yeah, it's
If you don't
moved
know like,
through.
the proper like gist of why you're doing this, and you're not just doing it because oh my mum, my auntie, and my grandma told me to do this. You don't know the real reason why.
Right.
Then
Okay, what about like say for and like when Nigerians usually or mainly a lot of Africans they do like even some Asian cultures they do it when they do like traditional weddings.
Right.
What do you call that then?
That's a custom. That's still a
it's
custom
part of the
because
culture.
we don't yeah,
Yeah.
it's like we don't really know what the origin of that is. Do you know what I'm saying?
But it's part of their tradition. That's what I'm trying to
The
say. It's a
culture.
tradition.
It's the
Nah,
culture.
because like, we don't call it a culture. It's a traditional like a traditional wedding.
Okay.
Does that
But
make
a
sense?
white wedding in a church could also be classed as traditional.
Yeah.
And people that are quote unquote black British could go for a traditional white wedding. Do you see what I mean?
Right.
So it's not really tradition, it's a custom. Like I think it's
I
about
don't
it's the
know.
use of the word. You just have to be a little bit like it's like for me tradition is
Yeah.
like finding the root of where it came from. Like if we don't know the root, it's not a tradition. It's a culture.
I don't.
Like for example, like
okay.
Jamaican customs are an amalgamation of different traditions or different cultures. Like for example, we're made up of the native Indian people, that the original Jamaicans, the Arabs. There are a lot of things in our community that we still practice.
Right.
Like for example, the way we cook our meat, this kind of thing.
Okay.
But then we also have Ghanaian traditions that was taken when the Maroons were taken over from Ghana, etc. So it's an amalgamation of different types of traditions, but it's now become a culture because it's not. We don't really know for real where it came from. It's just mixed up, and I think it's this kind of the same thing. It's like in our initiation, we talk a little bit about like the tradition versus colonize Africa. Like there's a difference to
Yeah,
it.
definitely.
Do you
Yeah.
see what I'm saying? So a lot of us in the world now, we're living in the colonized part of the world. We don't really know what the tradition is for real unless we go into the village, like I didn't
Yeah,
say,
yeah, yeah.
and truly experience that.
No, I hear that still.
You know?
Okay.
Yeah.